Episode 14 of season 3, Cup of Mets podcast. And Robbie, another exhilarating win down in the nation's capital. How are you doing? What were your thoughts on tonight, man?
No, obviously I'm doing great. The Mets squeak out another one in the 10th inning. They put up 5 runs in the second straight game of a 4 game set. But again, the Mets looking good, coming up clutch, and I'm just very excited for the rest of the season.
Yeah, dude, it's kind of wild. It's day in and day out. They're repeatedly doing the same things, and especially over the last two games against the Nationals, bouncing back after losing to the Astros in the final two of that homestand. But before we dive into it all, remember, give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We're at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Visit cupofmets.com to get all the latest merch. And last but not least, download the SeatGeek app, punching code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. Again, an amazing win last night. We'll touch upon that in a bit. But tonight, again, moments ago, the game just ended. Mets win 7-2 in 10 innings. They explode for 5 runs in the 10th. It was 2-2 going to the 10th. But first and foremost, Sean Manaea tonight goes 7 innings. Finally, the man sees over
Yeah,
five,
finally.
6 innings. It's a long coming, but it was really, really well welcomed. 7 innings, hits allowed, 2 runs allowed, only one of them earned, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. He got me over that 4.5 over on the strikeout. Had that bet, and I hit that. So thank you, Sean, on that. What were your thoughts on Sean? I thought that he had all of his pitches working really nicely tonight. I think he got like 9 swing and misses in total. What do you see from Manaea that you like?
No, yeah, I mean, again, his best pitch is his fastball. Obviously, that's where he gets his swings and misses a lot of the time, most of the time. The velo's there. Most importantly, the X factor, Francisco Alvarez. He's been helping him out a lot. The ERA with Francisco Alvarez behind the dish, opposed to a different catcher, speaks volumes. But Sean Manaea, I think the best part about Sean Manaea is every time he gets into trouble, he finds a way out of it, whether it's 1 run or no runs. But he's definitely a an interesting not again an interesting player going into the trade deadline. And not to bring that up, but again, just very happy and satisfied with him going 7 innings, kind of saving a couple bullpen arms and leaving the Mets in pretty much keeping the Mets in the game. So great start by Sean.
So we're talking about a great start by a Met in a very big win, 83rd game of the year. They're a game above 500, and the trade deadline's brought up in regards to a Mets player. Is Matt on here? Am I missing? Am I missing something? Rob, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Listen, pump the brakes
No,
for a
yeah.
second. I get what you're saying. If you want to continue, you can, but again, Manaea has that year attached to him, so it does make him an interesting trade chip if teams like what they're seeing. ERA's down to 367. He's got 83 strikeouts and I think 83 or 84 innings. Tonight, he had the cutter, the sinker, the sweeper, the fastball. They were all working. And again, when you have all of those pitches at your disposal, he ended up throwing 97 over 7 innings. You're gonna see results, and he topped out at 96 miles per hour. He leaned back and got it when he had to. He limited the walks, which has been a massive issue for him as of recent, even though he was erratic on some occasions. That arm slot kind of got lost a little bit, had especially to the right-handed hitters. He threw quite a few fastballs or sinkers that got away from him. But outside of that, I thought Manaea looked great. He really carried the hurdle. And then how about Jose Budo? Comes in 2 innings out of the pen in his return as he got called up. 1 hit allowed, 1 walk, 1K. The man's here to stay.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, an interesting little situation here for the Mets coming, for tomorrow because I me and you spoke about it during the game that he should have been left in for that third inning. Daniel Nunez has been overworked, in my opinion, and again, wasting another arm. Not even wasting, but like using another arm.
He threw he
When the
threw
when the
he
game,
threw last
yeah,
night.
yeah, yeah, that too, and using another arm, especially on back-to-back days when you just called up Jose Budo. and he's a starting pitcher, so he can go multiple innings. Granted, he pitched on Friday, I believe, but it doesn't matter. He's up here to help out the bullpen, and I just think a little questionable management in terms of the bullpen usage, but again, very nice outing. He kept us in the game, got clutch outs and clutch swings and misses when needed. So I think you said it best. He's here to stay. So I agree with you on that.
The man's got some nasty stuff. I absolutely love that changeup that just drops out of the strike zone completely, catches hitters completely off guard. Really, really nice. I don't, yeah, again, I said I brought it up as you were talking. Daniel Nunez was brought in for the 10th inning. Mets up 5 runs. Again, no lead is safe with the Mets. And I'm assuming that Mendoza didn't want to burn Budo out immediately. I don't know the last time that he threw in Syracuse was, so potentially that's why he only went 2 innings. However, Nunez just threw last night. I mean, you could have thrown Ty Adcock out there, you know what I'm saying? And that would
Yeah.
have sufficed. Hopefully he would have been able to get the job
And
done.
and
But
it's not like Nunez threw like a 10 to 15 pitch outing. Like he not struggled, but he was up there in the high 20s, I believe. So
absolutely. I haven't checked out the post game. I didn't listen to what Mendoza said, but I assume that there's an answer somewhere. A
definitely.
reporter a reporter had to have asked that question. But nonetheless, the Mets ended up winning 7-2. Manaea, Budo, and Nunez, fantastic job. And again, as you said, we'll see with Budo, but I think that he is somebody that's going to wind up staying with the big club as he was called up. Tyler J sent down, and Christian Scott also will come up and rejoin the team tomorrow night, and we'll discuss that. Offensively, however, Francisco Lindor continues to hit that average up to 249, OPS 759, opened up the scoring in the 6th inning with a solo home run, took a fastball in. I just want to say, DJ Hurst, fantastic. Matt tweeted out weeks ago that the Nationals fleeced the Cubs last year in a deal for Heimer Candelario that sent Hurst back to Washington from the Cubs. Hurst is really good. Struck out 10 over 5 2/3. Kudos to him, but Lindor did take him deep, and that did open the scoring. Lindor from the right side is just so smooth.
Yeah, definitely. That's his 14th of the year, I believe.
Yep.
Again, just and it's with two strikes, and that's been like kind of like the common theme with this offense. They battle till the end. Even yesterday with JD Martinez, 0-2 pitch, 3-run homer in the 10th inning. Very clutch hitting 1 through 4. Francisco Lindor, since being moved to the leadoff spot, he's been amazing. And I love to see it because now, again, he's playing with joy, he's playing with energy, he's helping the Mets win. So nothing but love for Francisco Lindor, like always.
Yeah. And then that was his 14th of the year. 2 innings later, Brandon Nimmo comes up, who entered the game. Harrison Bader made a really nice attempt out in center field, hit his back up against the wall. He's day to day as of right now. Don't know the latest on him, but he was removed from the game. Brandon Nimmo, who passed out the other night in the hotel room, hit his head. He underwent all testing. Was okay, and he was slated to come back and start tomorrow, but was available off the bench tonight. He ended up having to come in. He ended up getting the game tying knock, RBI single to left field, and Francisco Lindor started that. He hit his 25th double of the year. That ties his total from the 2022 campaign where he drove in over 100 and hit 27 home runs. So Lindor on an amazing pace. But what a difference Brandon Nimmo makes in the Mets lineup.
Hell yeah, Brandon Nimmo, let's go, Brandon. Again, whether he hits first, whether he hits third, whether he hits second, this is like the one year we've really seen Brandon Nimmo evolve as a hitter offensively. Again, we pictured him as that leadoff hitter who worked counts, got on base. Now he's really enjoyed his role and embraced his new role in being that two hitter, that best hitter on the team, overall hitter as a team on the team. And he's really showing how much of an impact offensively he can be, regardless if he's leading off, regardless if he's hitting in the core or clutch spots. It's just really nice to see. And the fact that he's leading the team in RBIs is, it raises your eyebrows a little bit because again, this is a guy that was working counts leading off for the Mets and usually using the walk to his advantage. Now he's just a pure hitter and it's really nice to see a homegrown player like Brandon Nimmo succeed.
And the nice part is about that is he's still getting on base at his 360 clip. So that kind of makes it all worthwhile when you see him hitting for the power, driving in the runs, leads the team with 52 RBIs. So Nimmo just completely transformed the lineup. And the Mets, to begin tonight, we didn't mention this, but JD Martinez was scratched from the lineup tonight, and he appears to be day to day. There was something with he doesn't have his correct Adidas shoes or something along those lines. There was, and he had to order Amazon shoes. So that he said was to potentially blame for his sore ankle, but he was scratched from tonight's lineup. So the Mets were without Nimmo and Martinez to start tonight, and then obviously Nimmo comes in and ends up tying the game. So the Mets were down in a hole already, but they were able to come through. And then in the 10th inning, and I just want to say, two nights in a row, the Mets were able to do damage, absolute damage against Hunter Harvey in the extras. Hunter Harvey's becoming the 2015 version of Drew Storen in my eyes a
No,
little
yeah,
bit.
definitely.
I
That's a
mean,
great comparison.
every game for the Nationals isn't, must win like that season was for both clubs, but
Yep.
Hunter Harvey's definitely getting bit up by the Mets. And then in the 10th inning, again, the Mets put up a 5 spot. Oh my God. Jose Iglesias starts it off. RBI doubled to right field, which scored Tyrone Taylor. Then Brandon Nimmo doubled on a line drive to left field. That's his 16th of the year, made it 4-2. Mark Vientos then singled on a line drive to left field. The Mets have their third baseman, by the way. Uh,
Yeah,
Mark
yeah,
Mark
definitely.
Mark Vientos hitting 305, 935 OPS, and I believe 140 something at bats. So he continues to rake. And then Pete Alonso hits number 18. Love seeing Pete contribute.
No, yeah, definitely. But again, we talked about clutch, and that was a clutch home run. Pete Alonso is known for those, and again, the fact that again another two strike count, he was working the count. Didn't really look good in the beginning of the game, but then as the game went on, looked more comfortable and looked better. Worked his ABs, and this one just so happened to put it over the left field fence. So very clutch timing, and again, 30 to 35 home runs is what we expect of Pete Alonso. So again, very happy for him, and again, that 1 through 4 has just been clutch this whole month of June and going into July.
Right. And I can't recall if last week Francisco Alvarez began hitting like he has, but he has 3 home runs over the last, I feel as if it's the last week and a half, 2 weeks, but he's been on absolute fire as well as Viento. So again, when all is healthy, as you just said, 1 through 4, you extend that a little bit further. You're going Lindor, Nimmo, Martinez, Alonso, Alvarez, Vientos when Starling Marte comes back as he was put on the IL. So again, the lineup looks deep. And then look at a guy like Jose Iglesias. Again, gets the game deciding knock in the 10th inning. It's a small sample size, 20 games, 49 at bats, but the guy has a 974 OPS, hitting 388, getting on base at a 423 clip. Again, just fantastic when he's getting the opportunities. And yet again, I'll pose the question, why is Jeff McNeil still in the lineup? Unfortunately, given the circumstances of the club right now, he had to over the last 2 games. Played left, right,
Mhm.
and second today, but another 0-4 at the dish, average down to 213, OPS 572. Like, why isn't Iglesias playing every day, man?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, I think Mendoza has embraced this platoon role, with McNeil starting against righties and Iglesias starting against lefties. My thing with Iglesias though is again 8 for 11 with runners in scoring position, 467 batting average versus left-handed pitching. So he's tearing the cover off the ball. But again, clutch home run yesterday off a right-handed pitcher. Another clutch hit off a right-handed pitcher today. Or no, excuse me, it was off a left-handed pitcher. But you get the point. He's tearing the cover off the ball. Jeff McNeil's time is running out. With Luis Angel Acuna, kind of knocking at the door right now. Fans want him to get called up already. Um, you never know, and especially with how long Bader's out, you never know. But I think his time's running out, and Iglesias, man, he kind of changed the team chemistry a little bit. Obviously the
Yep.
team meeting helped out a lot, but the team chemistry's unreal right now. The oh my God sign, Hitting's contagious, and everybody, again, whether they hit a home run or a clutch hit, everybody's cheering for each other. The celebrations are real. It's just really fun to see.
How about the post game concert?
Dude, I've never seen that before ever in a sporting event. I mean, obviously, you have 50 Cent
I
or this guy
also
performing after a
the
game,
only
but a
thing
player,
the only thing that I can recall, but again, I believe he changed and he got all set up was Adam Wainwright last year. I believe after the last game of the
really,
season, he performed out in center field because he is an artist. So is Iglesias, but him performing like that in uniform with the
yeah,
players on the side, that what a scene that was.
I know. On fireworks night, I heard. So, again, just bringing good vibes to the ballpark.
It's
It's
a
fun to
great
see.
song.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
You don't mind it, really?
Yeah. Well, again, it's just a nice little story.
Yeah, I love it. And as you said, I agree. He's changed the team chemistry. You brought him up, so I guess we'll touch upon this. On Luis Angel Acuna, he's knocking at the door. 324 at bats this season. He's got his average up to 270 on base percentage at 323. He's got 5 home runs driven in 31, has 27 stolen bases as well. Again, the Mets will have to do something. And again, they are awaiting the return of a Starling Marte who will dispose a Ben Gamel, for instance. But Acuna has to be called up. And again, the offense is not the issue right now. It's specifically the bullpen as well as I guess the length that the starting pitching is providing. However, Acuna right now is hitting the cover off the ball, has really turned a corner, I think, at the AAA level. And I again, he still has a little bit more to prove. He still has to grow into that power. He's only hit 5 home runs. And again, he's not necessarily going to be a power hitter like his brother, but he has some things that he has to work on. Still has to work on the eye as well. What would you do? Right? Jeff McNeil obviously would become a complete utility player, but Jose Iglesias has to stay as well because you don't want to mess up any team chemistry. But how would you handle Luis Angel Acuna coming into this fold if the Mets were to call him up?
Yeah, no, it's a good problem to have as an organization. But again, he's the type of player that I've seen that he's getting more reps in the outfield for AAA Syracuse, which is good to see. Again, you never know what happens with Bader, whether he hits the IL or is just day to day. But but again, if Jeff McNeil continues to struggle, then you're gonna have to lay out your options and consider calling him up. I honestly, a situation that comes to mind that I can compare to this is when Michael Conforto got called up for 2015. Um, whether I think it was after the All-Star break. I'm not entirely sure right now, but I think you give Jeff McNeil to the All-Star break. Again, you regroup for the second half and see where we go from there. But I could see again, I see Acuna more as a center fielder in my eyes than a second baseman or a shortstop, obviously.
Well, long-term center fielder works then for the Mets because they have two short-term options right now in Bader and Tyrone Taylor manning center field with Nimmo moving over to left. But again, I think that really works in Acuna's advantage as well. The fact that he can play a little bit of the outfield, can play second base, can play shortstop. And I think that another thing that bodes well for the Mets is the versatility that, even though he's sucking win right now, that Jeff McNeil offers. Again, he played 3 positions tonight. The Mets have versatility and they have players at their disposal that they can do away with, like a Ben Gamel, as I mentioned, potentially a DJ Stewart down the line. So, and I know Matt would love that. He would be all over that right now if he was there. But again, the Mets have players that they can move around, and I just think that Acuna needs to be there. I like the comparison to Conforto as well. Those Mets weren't hitting at all, and I believe that since June 1st, the Mets are averaging the most runs per game in the majors. But again, that would provide another jolt. And I believe Gary Cohen said it tonight. The bullpen and the bullpen can be so bad. They have the highest ERA in the major since June 1st, or over the last several games since Diaz has been suspended as well. But your bullpen can be so bad. But if your offense is putting up 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 runs per game, it's tough to really come back from that. So if Acuna makes them that much better, you call him up.
No, yeah, I think another thing I forgot to mention was that his speed aspect um, that he brings to this team. Obviously the Mets have been very successful swiping bags this year. Marte, Bader, Lindor, Nimmo even. But again, it just adds another guy that can, whether pinch run in late game situations and then play the rest of the game, or again just brings that speed aspect to the Mets again, and it'd be can't have enough speed, and again the baby Mets, as you said it while we were watching the game, could contribute sooner rather than later, honestly.
Right. And I would just like to say, you just mentioned we were watching the game. Rob and I were set up to record tonight together, and Rob forgot his laptop charger, the main power component for what we're trying to do here, record a podcast. So he had to go home, but a trooper, a trooper.
Well,
Um, Want to shift focus quickly just to last night. Again, the Mets did defeat the Nationals 9-7. It got a little bit closer than it had to, as the bullpen was shaky per usual, giving up 4 runs. So again, the Mets put up a 6 spot in the 10th, and the Nationals responded with a 4 spot. Mets win 9-7. Jake Diekman got the win. But David Peterson, he also went into the 7th inning. So back-to-back nights where the Mets pitchers go into the 7th inning. He went 6 1/3, allowed 7 hits, walked just 1, gave up 2 earned runs, and struck out 2. But David Peterson, again, looking great. To me, I just find that when he is on the rubber, when he is moving quicker within his delivery, he looks better. I don't know if that makes sense, but his pitches just seem to be more crisp. His He seems to have more of an more repeatable motion. And again, he just looks really good. The velo was up there 90, 94, 95, was getting swing and misses when he needed to, as well as on that changeup, on that slider. So I thought Peterson looked great. And if he can, with the struggles that we're seeing from like a Tyler McGill, let's say, if he could be a cog in that rotation, that goes a long way for them.
yeah, definitely. And again, it's good to see David Peterson's kind of maturing on the mound a little bit more, each and every year. And again, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but again, the impact of Francisco Alvarez is so important, to a pitcher, not only to a specific pitcher, but to the whole staff. So again, it's good to see David Peterson competing like that, not working so deep into counts, and getting a lot of swings and misses.
The thing that I love that he's been doing so well is that he's been utilizing all 5 of his pitches: the sinker, four seamer, slider, changeup, and curveball. And he's been getting hitters this chase. So again, 3.51 ERA over his first 6 starts of the season. If he can continue that, that would be excellent. I agree. Just consistency is key for him, limiting the walks. And again, just getting more swing and misses. Tyler McGill was optioned to the minors, the other half of that duo. Christian Scott finally back up. Somebody that when we watch him, number 45, reminds us of Zach Wheeler. I'm so excited to see Christian Scott back in the orange and blue, going for the third consecutive win against Washington, D.C. How important of how important do you think his development is for the Mets' chances as they continue trending in a positive direction towards the wild card?
No, I mean, again, Christian Scott, you've seen what he could become, and I really liked again, the pitching with no fear. Um, he's still searching for that first major league win, but the Mets are hot right now. They're a different team from when he was up in his first couple outings, but obviously the development is important, but just being around the situation that we're in right now, competing in baseball games in the thick of things, we'll really see his true colors. And I'm excited for the kid. Like you said before, he's a depiction of Zach Wheeler. He rocks the 45 and he throws hard and he has a nasty slider. So again, really rooting for the kid, and hopefully he holds his own, and then a couple other big names come back and the Mets are in business.
Absolutely. The thing that I love about Christian Scott as well, I mean, I just mentioned the five pitch arsenal that David Peterson had, but with Scott, you look at him and he predominantly throws his four seam fastball, but then he distributes his pitches extremely efficiently. His sweeper, slider, and split finger. Normally, you see a drop off with maybe your fourth pitch where it's in the 2, 3, 4%. Sweeper 18.9%, slider 18.7%, and he throws his split finger at 10.4%. So he really utilizes all four pitches. Again, a 3.90 ERA over his five starts in 27 and two thirds, struck out 25. Really did a good job limiting the walks as well. At just 25 years old, I'm again, I couldn't be more happy. Last week, I think I was bitching and complaining about the fact that Tyler McGill was still on the rotation. Couldn't be happier to see Christian Scott back up in the major leagues. And outside of the rotation, as we continue in the pitching direction, the Mets bullpen needs a lot of help. And when we say a lot of help, we need a lot of help. We didn't start with any quick notes because we're going to cap off with them. But one of the quick notes is the fact that Drew Smith is most likely, well, he is done for the year. Drew Smith is out for the year, but he is most likely going to be undergoing his second Tommy John surgery, which, well wishes to Drew Smith. That really sucks for him. Nothing but well wishes, and really sucks for the Mets bullpen as they continue to get beleaguered. Edwin Diaz obviously suspended, Brooks Raley out for the year, Adam Ottavino not pitching to his standards. Their ERA in the 7 games since tonight was the seventh game of Diaz's 10-game suspension. But I guess up until tonight, the Mets bullpen ERA was above 7. First thing I want to ask you, I brought it up last week. I'm not sure if it was you or Matt who said no, but do you think this would be a good time to maybe transition Tyler McGill into a mid to high leverage bullpen piece, experiment with it in Syracuse and see if they can maybe pick something there?
I mean, again, my stance on that. I said if, they were to do that to transition him into the bullpen, they would have already done it. But yeah, honestly, this is a good time to do it because if you don't want to trade or make a trade and give up assets to get someone away from the organization, trade or whatever, then yes, this is the right time to do it. I would experiment with it though in the major leagues though, not in AAA. I understand you already optioned him to AAA, but again, maybe again call him up, see how it goes, but this is definitely the perfect time to do it. But other than that, if not, then they might have to go elsewhere, which again, a trade is highly likely.
I mean, think about it for a second. Yeah, sure, you would lose Tyler McGill in the starting depth, but once people get healthy, you have Kodai, you have Sevi, you have Manaea, you have Scott, you have Quintana, right? You have Peterson, you have who am I missing? Budo.
Yeah,
And again,
Buddha.
some of the players that they are very high of in the minor league. So transitioning a guy like McGill, who could potentially give you some high leverage innings out of the pen, but can also be a swing man, I think would be really important. This rotation, right? I mean, this bullpen right now for a team that is a game and a half out of the wild card. Ty Adcock, Jake Diekman, Matt Festa, who needs to be DFA'd, Reed Garrett, Adrian Hauser, Jose Budo, Daniel Nunez, and Adam Ottavino. The only three, no, the only four that I trust is Nunez, Budo, Garrett, and Diekman. And Diekman, I'm iffy on. Reed Garrett, I've been iffy on. I mean, listen, Adrian Hauser's pitched great, which I can't believe I'm ever going to say that. He somehow has he somehow has his ERA down to 5.37 over his last 7 appearances.
Yeah,
Is
but as a reliever, he's been nasty.
He's been nasty over his last 7 appearances, 1.08 ERA, 16 and two thirds of an inning, has only allowed 2 earned runs. He's been filthy. And That's why I'm again, McGill throws harder. He throws more pitches than Hauser, but again, Hauser most likely will get another opportunity to start elsewhere in the future. But you look at a guy like McGill, and maybe you can get the same type of output from him. And I think you nailed it. You don't experiment with it at the big league level, especially with the team that's in it. You experiment with it in the minor leagues. And that's why right now I think would be a really good time to do it. As far as internally speaking goes, there are a couple players that the Mets can go to. Max Kranick is one that came back from an injury. The Mets brought him in the offseason. He was expected to compete for a roster spot, but then got injured. He has a 3.89 ERA and 14 relief appearances for Syracuse. Then you got Wilkin Ramos, who 23-year-old, who is in Syracuse. Just has 5 innings under his belt there, but 127 ERA. And then Eric Orrs, who is a two-time cancer survivor. I'm reading this offline. So that's a really, really great story. 52 strikeouts in 36 and a third of an inning. And then you have three guys who are currently on the 40 man that you would call up: Cole Sulser, Josh Walker, Danny Young. And then again, we'll see. The other two quick notes that I was going to mention earlier on is that Bryce Montes de Oca and Shintaro Fujinami are both currently on rehab assignments. That could go a long way for the club. De Oca has looked good thus far in his rehab. He's coming back from a little bit more of a complicated injury, but we saw De Oca 2 years ago. He was filthy, filthy. I've never seen pitches move like that in my life.
Yeah, no, again, he reminded me a little bit of Dellin Betances. And again, this is nice to hear because Shintaro Fujinami was a major league signing. Again, a lot of incentives towards that deal, but he was a guy who pitched high leverage innings for the Orioles. And then again, Bryce Montes de Oca with a unfortunate injury. It's good to see that these two are starting to rev back up again, and maybe this is a sign that the Mets just stay internally when it comes to the bullpen. But it's good things to hear, and hopefully, we see him at the big league level.
I think it's a matter of time. You look at Edwin Diaz, who will come back, and then the rest of the bullpen, a Ty Adcock, you can't see for long, Matt Festa as well. So those two are going to be up in the air. I could definitely see Dayoka and Fujinami replacing them, but how long until they're ready remains to be seen. And then a guy like Kranick, I think, can also give you an opportunity. With that said, he's a guy that can also go multiple innings. And if you have a bullpen that consists of Hauser and Budo and Nunez, as well as a Fujinami, as I mentioned, then it would kind of make for you just have a ton of multi-inning pitchers. So not sure if you want to go in that direction. But again, the Mets need pitching help. Quick question. How, again, the Mets are 42 and 41. They'll either be a game and a half or 2 games out of the third wild card spot by the end of the night. What would you trade, or how much would you trade right now, given the Mets stance, for a high leverage reliever? Would you be hesitant to trade given where the Mets are? Because it's clear that the Mets are actively searching for bullpen help, but prices are obviously high. There are so many teams in it. There's so many teams that need bullpen help.
Well, well, listen, I'll say this. I think the Mets go the rental route when it comes to relievers. They're not going to give up the whole farm for, you know, like a top end reliever. Again, whoever's available is available, and we'll see in July, late July. But when it comes to giving up prospects, I don't think the Mets give up 1 through 10, especially for a reliever. So, David Stearns and company will do their due diligence, but like I said, I think they go the rental route.
I agree. And for me, I two names in particular that I like: Carlos Estevez of the Angels and Matt Moore of the Angels as well. They're both going to be free agents at year's end, and I think both would make really good pieces for the Mets to acquire. With that said, the question that I'm asking you, I'll answer for myself. I said it last week or the week before. This is not I believe the Mets are going to go to the playoffs, and I'm praying and hoping that the Mets are going to go to the playoffs. But I am not of the belief that the Mets making this type of trade will make them World Series contenders. There needs to be little pieces here and there that put them together, kind of like how the Diamondbacks acquired Tommy Pham last year. So when you look at them, again, the Mets aren't winning the East. The Mets have a window of 2024 and beyond. 2025 is that golden year. After this year, all the money opens up. So you're not trading Gilbert, Acuna, Scott, even I'm not even trading a Mike Vasile or I mean, and obviously the top guys like Clifford and Jet Williams are off, and Brandon Sprout are off, um, the table as well. But I'm not even trading a Mike Vasile or a Dom Hamill. I'm not even doing that, right? I, I would dabble. I would dabble maybe a Brett Beatty. I don't know if the Mets fully believe that Mark Vientos is the guy and they're willing to cut cords with Beatty already, but I would entertain that. I would entertain some, maybe 20 to 30 when it comes to level prospects within the farm system. But I'm not dealing my top level guys. And I think right now, given how many teams are in the race, it's going to really make the market fluctuated with teams that are looking for the same thing, and it's going to drive the market and the prices higher. The one good thing that I'll say is that the Cardinals and the Padres are playing better now, and some of the teams are falling out, and the Mets are playing better now. So if those teams fall out, then you have some players on the Nationals that might be available. So a guy like Kyle Finnegan, right? Or you have the Pirates, and this guy, this player, David Bendar. You never know, right? So again, there's a lot of different there's a lot of different directions in which the Mets can go, but I definitely think that they should be on the lookout for an arm because they need it desperately, as the bullpen is abysmal. Granted, it was good tonight.
It was all right, but I again, you know, you said you hit it on the head. We gotta see these guys that are behind us. If these teams fall back, teams like the Reds, Pirates, Diamondbacks. One name I have, honestly, I'm gonna just show you my list because I'm gonna just share my list because again, I have like a dream candidates and I have realistic options. I'll go with my dream candidates first. One name that pops up into mind is a familiar name, but he's not Sugar. Alexis Diaz from the Reds. I think the Mets, if you want to get a stud reliever, I think that's the one. He sets up for his brother. 8-9 punch would be insane.
That would
And then
cost a
another
lot.
dream candidate. Yep, it would. It would. And again, if the Mets are all in like that, then so be it. We'll go from there. But I don't see it happening. Like I said, that's why I categorized it dream. And
Gotcha.
another dream candidate, it might happen just because of the 1 year deal. But Aroldis Chapman. Mets need a lefty. I don't trust Jake Diekman. Aroldis has had a pretty good year. He's pitched in 36 games. And he's hit that 100 mile per hour radius 100 mile per hour fastball consistently. Um, but then my realistic options, a guy like Brent Suter. The Mets pursued him over the offseason. He chose the Reds. Maybe that, again, maybe the Reds say, hey, fuck it. We'll deal this guy to the Mets. Another one is Paul Sewald. Maybe we have a reunion with Paul Sewald.
Okay.
The Diamondbacks are kind of falling off right now. Montgomery just hit the IL. Paul Sewald would honestly, in my eyes, be a good setup man for Edwin Diaz and can also close some games with that nasty slider of his. And another one which is interesting, and you bring up Brett Beatty, it's probably a bad trade in your eyes, but I'd honestly trade Brett Beatty to the White Sox for Michael Kopech. Um, again, Kopech has transitioned to the bullpen. He's been decent, hard thrower. I'll take it. More of a realistic option, like I said.
Rob, listen, for someone who's not good with trades, that's not the worst thing that's ever came out of your mouth. I
Thanks.
wouldn't I
Appreciate
wouldn't do that one for one. I would
it. No,
ask
of
the
course.
White Sox. I would ask the White Sox for something else as well.
Mhm.
But that's interesting. I'm not sure if the White Sox need a third. I haven't looked at the depth chart, nor do I care. They're pretty shitty, but yeah, I like those names, dude. I think that that's a good list to go off of. And I think that the rumors are only going to be getting more intense as the days and the weeks go by because, again, we
Correct.
are
Yep.
now in July. Trade
Mhm.
deadline is at the end of the month. the contenders are starting to emerge, and some teams like the Mets that are trying to distance themselves in the sense of throw some of the other teams away that they've been fighting and climbing the charts with, throw them out of the picture to really compete with the Braves, the Padres, and the Cardinals. Then we're going to be hearing quite a bit of rumblings, as we continue. And again, we'll see which direction the Mets going. Last but not least, before we wrap up, did just want to mention this. MLB Pipeline did come out with their top 100 prospect list, updated list. Jet Williams at 31, Christian Scott at 39, Drew Gilbert at 40, Ryan Clifford at 72, Luis Angel Acuna at 93, and Brandon Sprout makes an appearance. Last year's second round draft pick. He is at 98. He is climbing up the charts, and he will also be featured in the Futures game at the All-Star game. So, kudos to him. And again, that's 6 Mets on the top 100. So that farm system continues to look better. Rob, as we wrap up episode 14 here, coming off another awesome extra inning victory in Washington, D.C. Mets now a game above 500. Anything you want to say before we wrap up here?
Yeah, let's go Mets and enjoy a Christian Scott start tomorrow as he returns. Just keep the faith. You got to believe. And, again, let's go Mets.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Oh, Johnny Cueto is back on the open market. Oh, you mentioned that to me earlier, didn't
I
you?
did. I did.
Okay. Matt just tweeted at him and said, please just retire already. So, okay.
Oh,
Well, there we go.
why?
There's
It's
our
messed up,
third,
yo.
there's our third
So
partner there.
negative.
So negative, but he's a great piece to have. With that being said, as Rob said, let's go Mets. Give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the channel on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Visit cupofmets.com to get all the latest merch. And last but not least, download that SeatGeek app. Punch in code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. And for Robert Venegas, I'm Ian Bosniak. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody. Let's go Mets.